Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. It's very good to see you all. Come on in. My name's Helen Scott. I'm going to be chairing this evening. I teach at the university. I'm in the faculty union. I'm also in the Tempest Collective, which is organising this event. And I'm an immigrant from Britain originally. Before introducing our speakers, I just want to say that the Tempest Collective is a part of a national network of collectives. We organize around social justice, labour, immigrant rights, racial justice, gender justice, environmental justice, and we do organizing as well as educational events like this. And if you would like to know more, there's a sign-up sheet and there's more information. You can ask me afterwards. Secondly, I want to just recognize Migrant Justice and the fact that we're meeting in their wonderful organizing space. I want to thank Migrant Justice for allowing us to organize in their space and also for being such an inspiring hub for social justice organizing and labor organizing throughout the state. They really are an inspiration to us all. So tonight's forum brings together some really wonderful Vermont activists who are all on the front lines of the fight for immigrant rights, migrant rights, refugee rights, and pushing back against this terrible threat posed by the Trump regime. Our goal is to defend migrants, to defend refugees, and to make our state a sanctuary with equal rights for all. And we know that when they attack immigrants, they're also attacking all of us. And our fight is a shared fight, a collective struggle. This is a struggle for collective liberation. So I'll introduce our speakers in the order that they'll be speaking. And they will each present their thoughts for about 7 minutes each. And then we'll have time for a discussion, questions, comments, and we really want that to be inclusive, so people should really feel free to ask questions, but also to make comments. Come on in, come on in. Okay, so our first speaker is Antonio Golan, who's a member of the faculty union at UVM. He's also in the Tempest Collective, and he's in the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation. Next, we'll hear from Matt Gile, who's an organizer of Winooski's Sanctuary School initiative. He'll be followed by Pastor Stephen Tendo, who's president and founder of Eloi Ministries and a Ugandan refugee. And then we'll end with Christian Santos from Migrant Justice, a Migrant Justice leader with translation by Madeline Sharrow. I get everybody?
I think so.
All right, thank you so much. So go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start us off. I'm tasked with giving a little bit of context for what the other speakers will speak about. My name is Antonio Golan. As Helen said, I'm a member of the Tempest Collective and faculty at the University of Vermont. I'm also the son of immigrants. And I'll also say that my father was an undocumented immigrant for a very brief time. Fortunately for me, it was a very brief amount of time, so it didn't really affect me. But he came to this country on a tourist visa, overstayed the visa, and then married my mom to settle the paperwork, so to speak. Hence me, yeah. So I think what I would begin by saying in terms of the context, I would begin by saying that the second Trump inauguration has elicited a much more modest response than the first Trump inauguration. The first time around, we saw mass mobilization, most notably the Women's March on Washington, and the response to the second inauguration has been much more modest by comparison. Since many of his policies are a continuation of a bipartisan consensus that has been in place for decades, Trump's election shouldn't completely change our political calculations. As it concerns immigration, Trump's announced attacks on undocumented migrants, far from being a deviation from previous administrations, are in fact the continuation of a bipartisan approach that effectively sees so-called illegal immigrants as a source of cheap labor from workers who have no rights. Undocumented workers are essentially second-class non-citizens. And while xenophobia and racism are complex issues that can't be reduced to economics, it is important to note that immigration laws don't actually stop the influx of undocumented migrants, and I would say that's not their intention. But what they do is help maintain a vulnerable domestic workforce that is less able to organize and defend itself. With that said, while the Trump administration is in many ways a continuation of a decades-old bipartisan consensus, we'd be foolish to underestimate the severity of the present moment. The second Trump administration, even with its many contradictions, is better organized and more focused than the first. This is symbolized by the image of Trump signing dozens of executive orders the day of his inauguration, but is also seen in important material actions such as the pardoning of those who carried out the January 6th attempted coup. Pardoning members of groups such as the Proud Boys promises to embolden the Trumpian rights paramilitary wing, which will produce attacks on marginalized groups. In this context, increased ICE activity here in Vermont, including potential collaboration between federal agents and local institutions, such as police departments, educational institutions, hospitals, etc., can be read as an analogous attempt to terrorize and, by extension, marginalize migrant workers and other vulnerable communities. In light of this repressive mobilization, the response from mainstream political actors has been nothing short of disheartening, and I'm going to give two quick examples, but I think there are many, many more. Here locally, Buddy Singh, the Democratic candidate running for the South District in the upcoming Burlington City Council race, was asked about the creation of safe injection sites here in Burlington, which has been a topic of conversation and debate locally. To the question, Singh responded by stating that while they support creating safe injection sites, White House policies may soon render them illegal, in which case they would be against them. So basically taking a cue from the White House and the federal government. Similarly, in response to Trump's dismantling of federal funding for potential progressive causes, UVM has essentially called for the avoidance of language that might trigger the Trump administration and thus lead to the losses of federal funding. DEI, inclusive excellence, and even climate change are being identified as language that the university may potentially have to avoid during the next 4 years. And there hasn't been much of a coherent response from the administration at UVM, but these are things that I've heard firsthand in meetings. And as someone that's been on university campuses for some time now, I'm confident that after this, the administration is coming for, the Trump administration is coming for the curriculum, and we've already seen this play out in Florida. I think that's kind of a foreshadowing of things to come. The point here is that liberal institutions are opting for adaptation rather than resistance. The idea is that we should keep our head down, not make noise, and wait out the next 4 years under the assumption that then things will go back to normal, which I think is a hell of an assumption. Faced with this political landscape, we need to fortify our political alliances to, 1, mobilize politically, and 2, engage in solidarity. And when I speak of solidarity, I'm talking about concrete material actions, not just symbolic ones. We need to see an attack on one as an attack on all. I'll close by saying that I think this panel does both those things. We're here gathering in this political space, but I hope that this provides an opportunity to build and fortify our network so that we can act in the near future, act together in the near future. I'll end on a positive note, saying that despite UVM's or the UVM administration's disheartening response to the Trump inauguration, the UVM unions, faculty, staff, and graduate students held a rally last week that was attended by, I would say, roughly 200 people, really pushing back and demanding that the university administration do more. So even in these dark times, I think we have reason to be optimistic insofar as our ability to resist the Trump administration. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Matt Gile. I'm the librarian for the Winooski School District. And if you're not aware of the Winooski School District, we are definitely the most diverse student population in Vermont. And with the new Trump administration, the fear in our school district among our students and our families it's real and it's palpable. We already have families that are directly impacted by deportations already. So I've been organizing in all the ways that I can, but really the reaction among the teachers and the community in Winooski is everybody has just been looking for something to focus on and something to do. And the most immediate thing that we've been working on is that we're trying to advocate for a sanctuary schools policy getting passed in the Winooski School District. The process of passing a policy, it's like a three-stage thing. So we've already had a first read. The policy was drafted by our superintendent, who has been really, really thoughtful and active, Wilmer Chavarria, on immigration issues. So we've had a first read at the last school board meeting on Wednesday. We're going to have our second read, and that's going to be the first time that the school board votes. So we've been really organizing community members and our teachers, and actually a lot of students who are so excited to have an opportunity to speak to the school board and really share. So at the first read, the school board doesn't take a vote on it, but they do have a discussion. Some of our school board members were really supportive, but the biggest fear was that this would make our school district a target of the Trump administration, and sort of what that would mean. Are we putting ourselves out on a limb? I think that is a legitimate, real fear. But I also feel we can't sort of cede that ground before it's already been challenged. To just say, we're gonna, I think we need to proactively do as many things as we possibly can. And I think the best counter to that is to have statewide, to have other school districts stand in solidarity with Winooski and pass their own policies. So again, I've been organizing with teachers and community members and students to speak at this next school board meeting in support. But also I've been organizing with some NEA members and sort of members of other associations, trying to organize in their own communities in order to pass these policies statewide, and internally advocating that the Vermont NEA also pass it. So our local association, the Winooski Education Association, just last week voted to endorse the policy as written in Winooski. And then just today, the president of Vermont NEA has committed to endorsing the policy. And that's fantastic, but it's also just the first step, right? The Don Tinney, the VTNEA president, is going to endorse the Winooski policy at Winooski and pushing to make this a statewide effort and putting out toolkits and things so that to help other districts also pass their own policies. I feel like that's the next step. That's where we're trying to go to next. But just last Friday, I was driving a group of students to CVU for the district music festival. And that was the first time it really occurred to me, is whatever we can do in Winooski only applies in our Winooski school district, right? If kids are going to basketball games at other schools, are their parents going to check the policy at every school district that their kids play a basketball game and then weigh the risks? Is it worth it? And that can't be that can't be okay. and I think fundamentally a lot of sort of the legal underpinning of the sanctuary schools policy. And again, so the two major things that it does is it will restrict information sharing with federal agencies, and it will require ICE agents to have warrants to enter the building. Again, which just feels like such small things, but that in some ways is the limit of what we can do to protect these students in our schools. That they can, because we already have students that are not coming to school, parents that are not participating in community events, parents that are not coming to school to pick up their kids because they are scared, right? And you know, part of what this policy will do is it'll communicate to the community, right? Like, we are not the federal government. We are here to protect you. We are here to educate these children, and we are here to support you. And I feel like that's one of the more important things that this policy is going to do. And yeah, I don't know. The consequences for our students are it's extraordinary. What the possibilities, right? We have families with mixed immigration statuses, so some of the children will end up in unaccompanied minor detention if their guardians get picked up. Some will end up in DCF care. And again, we know with the last family separation, some of those families were never reunited, right? Like, these are like, the consequences are real and they're palpable, and these are kids that are just trying to sort of learn and grow and live, and the cruelty of it is staggering, yeah, you know, I think, you know, some of the other things that, you know, again, we're giving out know your rights cards. That's the other thing this policy does. We're going to have events for families and community members teaching them about their rights. We have a rapid response team that is already supporting families with legal resources and, you know, grocery cards when their breadwinner is no longer able to and yeah, I mean, all of these things, they feel insufficient, but I do feel like that we just got to do what we can, right? And I don't know, just working in that building every day, and the kids know, and they talk about it, and middle schoolers joke anytime a kid's not here. It's like, oh, you must have gotten picked up. Your friend must have gotten picked up by ICE, right? It's a joke, but it's a joke that's coming from a place of fear, and you know, it's. Yeah, I guess I do want to end on a hopeful note, and there really has been this beautiful coming together of people who really want to support these kids in this community, and the kids wanting to stand up and speak to the school boards themselves, I think, has been one of the most beautiful and powerful things. You know, sort of supporting them and writing these really, really intense and beautiful and powerful statements. So if there's anybody here that lives in Winooski, please, I encourage you on Wednesday, show up to the Winooski School District, or there's support the policy. But thank you. Kind of rambling, sorry.
There is something that catches my attention every other time I receive a threat from immigration. And that phrase that catches my attention is the preamble of the Constitution of this land. It says that we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The most eye-catching statement is we the people. Back, an Irish philosopher stated and said that all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. I happen to have been a great mobilizer of people in my country to fight against injustice. And we came up with a phrase saying that people power, our power. And I want to teach you one thing today. You can forget everything else. But I want you to repeat after me that people power,
People power,
our power.
our power.
Now, these politicians can go up there and speak with a lot of authority and send spells of scares, but I want to tell you that they are riding on your mandate. If you stand up and beg and demand for accountability, if you stand up and say, hey, I sent you to White House, but I did not send you to terrorize my community. I did not send you to spread hate. This is not what we stand for. They will back off. I am a good fan of action movies, and I've watched movies from Asia. Some of my friends in Asia who act movies, before they touch you, they say, yahoo! Sending that to scare you to fall down before even they slap you. What am I saying? Not everything that seems so scary is really a scarecrow. And we should not live in fear because so and so has said you have to go back to that shit country. You are a rapist and so on and so forth. They will come. But what matters in this situation is your stand, is your solidarity, is your voice. Don't sit back and say, it's not about me, it's their issues. I believe that one day, one time, it will get back to you. So many innocent Americans have been taken for a ride, using immigration as something to wink you off the things that matter. United States of America spends trillions and trillions of dollars in donations globally. How many people cross the border in a year? It has been used for political gains. You send these people to positions of authority and responsibility and take you for a ride, telling you these are terrorists coming and flooding in our country. Why are you not fighting these terrorists and you're in Iran, you're in Syria? Why would you donate trillions of dollars to Ukraine and leave the terrorists to enter into your country? Let us think about that. Administration after administration, immigration is a problem. Have you ever sat back and asked yourself that is it a real problem? Who are these people who are behind the caravanas coming from Central America? If they are terrorists, why are they crossing through sovereign nations? They cross through Guatemala. They have their defense system also. They cross through Mexico. Mexico is an independent country which fears threats to their own country's security. And they go through all those countries only to come and become terrorists in the United States of America. Does that make sense, guys? No. And then they say, they are emptying the jails. Which jail? Jails of where? We have given them the mandate to lie to us. It hurts me. For 4 years I've been in Vermont. I came with this kind of perception that Americans do not lie. Today you have to convince me otherwise. I was in the detention center for 2 years and 2 months. I went through the threat of being deported 2 times, being shackled with chains, brutally dumped on the plane. I don't even know how to shoot a pistol, but I was treated inhumanely like a terrorist. Why? Immigration has been used for so long, and it is a great opportunity for you people to probe into it, to know why every administration is using immigration for their political gains. Every administration that comes, you do not want to know how much money, your dollars that you pay in taxes, is being stolen every day using immigration as a scapegoat. Being in a detention center for 2 years, I learned a lot of things that I had never known before. The money that is being charged per immigrant that is kept in the detention center. Who owns the detention centers? Who are the people who are eating through and from the detention centers? How much is charged from an indigenous or a taxpayer in America per every deportee that is being taken outside of this country? Close to 30,000 US dollars. How much does it take to charter those planes? Does that make business sense to such a great country like this? Why would people even do not? I've always known Americans to be the smartest people on earth. Why don't you probe into this? And then someone comes and tells you, these are terrorists. And you're like, they should leave, they should go. When it is your taxpayers' money that is being used to destabilize Africa, to sell guns to Congo, to go to Libya, we are going to restore peace. What peace? Kill, steal, and destroy? When there was a genocide in Rwanda, America was not involved. Why? There is no oil. There is no gold in Rwanda. But Libya, because of the gold and oil, Syria, oil, oh, we are peacekeeping. Peacekeeping when you're robbing of people's heritage and wealth? I wonder why even some people come here and run their lungs out and get a piece of gold that is stolen from their country. All I am asking you good people, the moment you sit back and fold your hands, fear is gonna reign. Your communities are gonna go down. The years I've worked here, I love you people. I have paid my taxes. I work for the benefit of Vermont. I am not sitting back and say, oh, let me enjoy free health care. No. I work my head off to earn it. Not every person who is here, who migrated from their country, is waiting for things on a silver platter. No. Even undocumented immigrants have been watching closely on about what is happening. California is crying. Fruits are rotting in their fields. Have we sat back and weighed these things? We can go on and go on. But I want to ignite you that it is your power that they are using to ride on you. You can decide the future of this great country without giving a blank check to somebody to just take you for granted.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Cristian Santos y soy parte de Justicia Migrante y estoy contento de ver todos aquí y escuchar opiniones de todos acerca de este nuevo gobierno que está aquí en este país.
Hello everyone, my name is Cristian Santos. I'm part of Migrant Justice and I'm happy to see so many of you all here today. I'm glad to hear everyone's opinions about what's going on with the new government administration.
Y quiero compartirles cómo mi comunidad se siente impactada con este nuevo gobierno, cómo este nuevo gobierno ha aterrado muchísimo a la comunidad, sobre todo los compas que están trabajando en los ranchos y en la construcción.
I want to share how my community is feeling, how we're being impacted by this government right now, how we're feeling terrorized. And specifically, I want to talk about migrant workers on farms and in construction.
Estamos regresando a 10 años atrás, cuando ni justicia migrante estaba y todos vivíamos encerrados en las casas, en los ranchos.
We're taking steps back. We're going like 10 years back before Migrant Justice was even existed or organized. When we stayed at home, we weren't able to go out.
Es muy triste ver retroceder eso en lugar de avanzar y dar un paso más hacia adelante. Estamos retrocediendo mucho camino que nos ha costado sobresalir, que nos ha costado ir paso a paso para vivir lo que estuvimos viviendo antes, a volver a regresar a lo que se vivió hace 10 años.
It's very sad to see these steps that we're taking backwards after working so hard and organizing so hard to go ahead. And all the work that we've done, it's really difficult to feel ourselves now taking steps backwards.
Creo que este gobierno, aparte de que afecta a la comunidad migrante, afecta a todas las personas, sin distinción de color, de cómo tú eres. Afecta a todos los que viven aquí en el país, menos si tú no eres rico. Si tú eres rico, a ti no te afecta, te beneficia este nuevo gobierno, pero si tú eres pobre, nos da, como decimos nosotros, nuestro pueblo en la chingada a todos.
And I think that this government is affecting all our communities, everyone. Of course, the migrant community, but it's having a negative effect on all the people here, except people who are rich. It's really the rich people who are benefiting from this government. And the rest of us, if you're poor, if you're not part of the people who are rich, you're really, and he said, as we say in my country, you're como like you're fucked or you're like.
Entonces, hace unos días estaba analizando acerca de cómo Trump habla acerca de la comunidad, donde dice que somos criminales, que venimos a invadir este país, que venimos trayendo drogas para afectar a su comunidad. Pero estaba pensando acerca de él, de que como una persona con más de 34 cargos es un criminal y estoy gobernando este país.
A few days ago, I was thinking to myself about how Trump says that migrants, that immigrants are criminals, that we're invading this country, that we're bringing drugs here. But I was thinking about him, and I was thinking, how can this person with more than 34 criminal charges against him call us criminals?
Entonces, aquí estaba pensando acerca de eso y la diferencia es, vuelvo a repetir, porque él es rico y a los ricos no se les toca. Los ricos, si son criminales, ellos no les pueden hacer nada porque son ricos y tienen el dinero para impedir que la justicia llegue hacia ellos. Entonces, ¿cómo habla de una justicia justa, pero si no se aplica hacia ellos?
And so I was thinking about this difference. Oh, so this brought me back to thinking about the difference between Trump and the rest of us, and the fact that he's a rich person, and he's showing that this justice that he's talking about doesn't apply to him because of that.
Entonces, desafortunadamente, quiero hablar acerca del racismo, y en lo personal quiero hablar del racismo que a mí me ha tocado vivir y ha sido una barrera, porque recuerdo que cuando estaba en el rancho me salí de trabajar después de 3 años y medio porque vivía racismo pero creo que me acerqué más al racismo en mi nuevo área de trabajo, trabajando ahora en la construcción.
And unfortunately, I want to talk about an issue, racism, and I want to talk about my experience personally, because it's something that I've experienced as a real barrier in my life. And before this, I worked on farms. I worked on dairy farms for 3.5 years, and I left that job because I was facing discrimination and racism. But now I'm working in the construction industry, and I found that I'm facing even worse racism here.
Entonces, te das cuenta que no es el tipo de trabajo que la comunidad haga, ni si tienes papeles o no, sino es como la comunidad blanca está tratando a la comunidad migrante, como este nuevo gobierno maneja o engaña a la gente blanca, diciéndole que la comunidad migrante como es la solución de sacarlos de aquí para que Estados Unidos siga creciendo.
And I've noticed that because of my experience, it's not the kind of work that I was doing or not doing, and it's not whether or not you have papers or if you have papers, but it really has to do with the color of your skin. And Trump is fooling white people in this country, saying that if you get rid of all the migrants or all the people of color, that things are going to be better.
Entonces, quiero decirles que a pesar de que mi comunidad hoy siente miedo, estamos trabajando muy duro. En lo personal, yo he estado saliendo a los ranchos, educando a mis compañeros acerca de qué hacer si nos para la migra, de conocer nuestros derechos, de cómo poder enfrentar a la migra, si, aunque tengas o no tengas documentos, o si estás legal o no. Creo que eso es algo que he estado haciendo mucho con mis compas, educándolos de esa manera.
But I want to say that even though we're feeling a lot of fear right now, myself and my community, we're working really hard and we're organizing. I've been going to farms, working with my community members to learn about our rights, doing Know Your Rights training, talking about what to do if immigration stops you.
Entonces, creo que acerca de eso y acerca de también el programa que estamos llevando ahora contra Hannaford, Leche con Dignidad, va de la mano también con la comunidad. Porque si nosotros, justamente estábamos hablando hace unos días atrás, de que si nosotros logramos ganar ese contrato contra Hannaford, queremos ganar respeto ante la comunidad. Queremos ganar justicia, que la gente vea que la comunidad migrante también está trabajando duro y que ese programa va a estar protegiendo los derechos humanos en las granjas lecheras.
And something also that I've been thinking about, one of the other main campaigns of Migrant Justice is Milk with Dignity, trying to get Hannaford to join on to this program. And we were just talking about this the other day, is that when we get Hannaford to sign on to this contract protecting workers' rights, we're winning respect as a community. And we're creating, through that program, real protections, real justice.
Entonces, sí, es muy triste todo lo que estamos viviendo ahora con esta nueva administración, pero no nos queda más que resistencia. Resistencia y seguir luchando y seguir unidos sin distinción de dónde eres, de cómo te sientes, cuál es tu orientación sexual, cuál es tu color de piel. Creo que tenemos que estar unidos para poder resistir estos 4 años.
And so it's really sad what's happening with the new administration, but really the only thing that we have left to do is resist, is to be in resistance. And the way to do that is through unity. We need to come together regardless of who's got papers, who doesn't have papers, the color of our skin, sexual orientation or gender. We need to come together in unity.
Sí, y solamente quiero cerrar con esto, con una imagen que me encontré hace rato en las redes sociales, donde decía que solo estamos a favor de la vida a menos que nazcas y seas gay, pobre, estés enfermo, seas inmigrante o no seas blanco.
And so I want to close with an image that I just saw on social media that really struck me. And so it says, tal vez podemos pasarlo algo.
No lo puedes decir.
No, no, sí, voy a explicar. But so I'll explain it, and then perhaps there's a way for people to actually see it. But it's like two pictures next to each other, and one person is saying, "We're in favor of life," and the other side, someone is saying, "Unless it's someone who is born gay or poor or is sick or is an immigrant or isn't white."
Gracias.
Wow, thank you so much. That was such in equal parts empowering and sobering, but most of all, for me, it just brings me great confidence and hope and determination to hear so many stories of people showing courage and standing up for justice. And I think it gives us a model of what we can all be doing right now. We're going to open it up to discussion now, so people should feel free to not only ask questions but make comments. There are lots of people in this room, so if you could just keep your comments short so that we can maximize the number of people who can be heard. Who would like to start us off? Don't be shy. Just raise a hand.
Do ICE agents right now have...
He's got a mic for you.
Oh. Thank you. Do ICE agents right now have the right to just enter school without a warrant?
So that it's actually kind of unclear. Our superintendent he's implemented a procedure that hasn't been voted on by the school board yet. That does say you need a warrant in order to enter the school building. We actually. It seems silly, but we actually put up signs on every single classroom in the school, and got one outside my library that says "Private Learning Zone," which there are some lawyers think that is an additional layer of protection to say this is actually there's an expectation of privacy here, and it hasn't quite been tested yet. Is the central lobby in a school, is that a private zone that they would need a warrant to enter or not? So again, our school district preemptively just posted everything as private learning zone. Again, that's something that hasn't been tested yet. But if ICE did try to enter a building and could just say, that this lobby is open, what does that mean if they're trying to pick parents up at bus pickup? All of those things aren't things that haven't happened yet. So some of this is proactive, but the Trump administration is claiming it has the authority to do that because it's removed the guidance that they can't go into schools or hospitals or churches or stuff like that, which implies that they feel that they have that authority.
Maybe to add on that, if there is any organization that I've watched breaking the law with a lot of impunity, it is ICE.
Yeah.
ICE is not accountable for anything. They will knock you down, they'll wrap you up, they'll beat you up, they'll put you on the plane. Nobody probes into that. They are dealing with a criminal, a potential threat to the national security. And when it comes to the Trump administration, it is even worse because they are promoted to do exactly that. You are inhumane or you're not a human being as long as you do not have papers here.
Yeah, our school district's guidance right now is if you encounter an ICE agent, is they say pause, pause, involve, protect. So you shouldn't respond. Obviously, don't give any information in the moment. Delay as much as you can. Make sure you're texting administration, that they're contacting their lawyers. So nobody should be responsible for determining whether or not a warrant is true or not true. The difference between like a judicial warrant and an administrative warrant. Our school district has already done some training on that, but they're saying we should not be. In no way should we be responsible. That's something that would need to get checked by a lawyer. All of the and then lastly, protect. Again, if an ICE agent is acting illegally, right? If you feel comfortable, they said, our superintendent said, record, document. If you don't feel comfortable recording, then immediately after it happens, document it, write it down, contemporaneous notes. It's so yeah, it's terrifying to know that that they do act illegally, and then also the law hasn't fully been tested yet. So, what are they going to test?
You had a hand up, second row. Yeah.
This is just for the town meeting TV, so it's
Oh, okay. Are there actions that non-Winooski residents can take to help that?
I would say advocate for your local school board passing. So email your school board members, right? If you're involved in a union, try to push that they endorse some sort of policies. I'm hoping that again we can have some sort of statewide action. Although with this, Scott's administration, I'm not super confident they're going to take the lead on that. Zoe Saunders has actually already sort of pushed back. One of the things that our district's been doing is helping families. Delegate power of attorney in case that they are deported so that their families don't get separated. And Zoe Saunders just issued some guidance saying that school districts shouldn't be involved in doing that. So a lot of this stuff is still, it's up in the air and it's unclear. But again, advocating locally that your local school district, I would say that would be an amazing thing to do, yeah.
Is there a hand at the back there? Did I see?
somebody at the back.
I would really want to come back to you and say that you really have a lot of power. Mm-hmm. Not even the school board, but the community. 2 weeks back, I don't know what involved a border patrol agent in Newport somewhere, and he was hurt by Vermonters. That went all over the country.
Yep.
And I don't know the specifics, but hey, and I'm not advocating for violence at all, but a unified voice of back off Vermont. You're not welcome here. I mean, Vermont has less than 1 million people, if I should say. We do not have an immigration problem. Please do not come. Back off. I think sending a unified voice and resist as much as possible is going to send shocking waves to the illegal actions of ICE. Because trust me, you may stop, you may not respond, you may write all the posters you want and put them on your doors. ICE is not bothered by that. They do things with a lot of impunity and they do things at their own discretion. So, putting up resistance, these ICE agents are members of our community. We know where they sleep. You know, they live among you. They are your relatives. Tell them that you should become humane. They do not come from California to operate here. They live with you. If you lay back and just watch them do these things with a lot of impunity and you do not walk up to them and tell them, hey, these are human beings like you, they are going to continue. So we should not fear them for who they are. They are also human beings like you. People power, our power.
Wow.
Hi, I'm Paul. I live in Burlington and had 2 points. One, I just wanted to mention that there's an apartheid-free community campaign in Winooski. It's going to be on the ballot on town meeting day, and it's to advisory referendum to demand that the City Council of Winooski implement boycott, divestment, and sanctions in support of Palestinians. This committee has also been working with the sanctuary schools because we see that as part of apartheid in Winooski. Matt's on the apartheid organizing committee, the Apartheid Free Community Organizing Committee as well. So I think that's a connection that we can make, and people can join the organizing effort for apartheid free community. The second thing was just kind of observation of the panels that all of the panelists are in unions. One of the things that we're seeing is that there's tremendous power arrayed against us, and that the so-called alternative Democratic Party is hapless in the face of it, and is leading a lot of people to be demoralized, overwhelmed. There's a hurricane blowing at us. So just kind of one of the things, I don't know if the panel can respond to this, or I'm just putting it out there, is that being involved in long-term democratic organizations that can build and involve more people is absolutely key, because these, right away, there can be resistance. We can have a rapid response network, we can have sanctuary schools, but we also need to think about the ability of longer-term development of longer-term power to make an alternative that can shut down the economy. It's one of the reasons that migrant workers have so much power, is that they run the construction industry, the dairy industry, the service industry. Migrant Justice has brilliantly made this case over many, many years, and I think is one of the leading union organizations in Vermont. So just kind of the observation for the panelists, to talk about kind of the power, that we have, and it's in kind of the longer term democratic independent organizations.
Yeah, on 21st last month, I was summoned by ICE to go to their offices. I've been required and followed the law for the last 6 years, including the 2 years I was in the detention center. And when I came over here, I was required to check in with the ICE once a year. We started with 3 months, we graduated to 6 months, until we reached once a year, and on phone and email. I did that in November last year, and they gave me up to November this year. But few days to the inauguration, they sent me a shocking letter saying that you should come with all your belongings and all your immigration paperwork on this date and report. Knowing how cunning this institution is, I freaked out. My body started producing toxins, only toxins. My mouth became sour. You don't know what it means to be told that you're living right now. And you're looking at your apartment, you're looking at your car, you're looking at things that you've worked. No chance to say goodbye to your friends. No chance even to wait for your pay. If you have little money in the account, it's left. Everything. And I froze. I didn't know what to do. So I called my lawyers, I called my union members, and mobilized the community, Central Vermont Refugee Action Network. And within 2 days, we were able to mobilize close to 125 people. Most of them coming from UVM. So I present myself to ICE, but the entire building was surrounded by people. And that is a week before, there was a border patrol who had gotten hurt because of something that I cannot tell. So we find this man who heads ICE in St. Albans and is shocked and is like, can you please tell them go off the glass? People power.
Our power.
Yeah. And so I'm like, they are good people. They are not going to do anything. They just came to say goodbye to me in case anything happens. And then he starts apologizing. It was my very first time to see an ICE agent apologizing. We are not, this is not malicious, Mr. Tendo, this is not malicious. Instead of greeting me and asking me all the stupid questions that they normally ask, it took me 15 minutes and I was out of there. And they told me, oh, we are reversing the way you've been reporting. You'll be coming back after 6 months. You report in person. I don't want to take that lightly because going there, I need all of you to come and show power. And so one action that we can take all together, anything that happens to a Vermonter who is an immigrant who is supporting our community affects all of us. If we can hear that somebody is being raided, we can all go and they take all of us. Other than getting, it's as if we are in a cage of like chickens where they just come and pick one and to be eaten and then they leave others to come back the next time. But working in solidarity and telling them that we are not approving what you're doing works a lot. I've seen it work.
I would say that our local association was really, really important in our own organizing around the sanctuary schools. Also, it was the association connections that got me here tonight through Andy from the Howard Center Association. We've got a loose group of union leaders from across the state that helped with an email campaign to all of our NEA board of directors and emailing our NEA president in order to get that passed. So again, I really feel like it was all of those connections, these connections between unions, these connections within unions. We have these pre-existing structures that we're able to sort of get the information out, to organize everybody for the public comment, to make sure all of these things happened, right? Having those structures in place really made it like, it was almost like it just kind of happened. We just started talking about it. I told the association about it. People ran with it. I could hand things to somebody. We're like, oh, can you organize the middle school teachers for that? And it just happened, right? All of those things, we shared the load, right? And people are standing in solidarity with each other, and that's how we make things happen and change.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marnie Avila. I work with the Vermont Asylum Assistance Project. Thank you. We are very close partners of Migrant Justice, and we are very grateful for this space today and see how many of you are being worried about what's happening in our community. And today I want to address all of you as I'm gonna wear two hats. I'm gonna wear my Vermont Asylum Assistance Project hat, and then I'm gonna wear my own and share a few things. So from a VAB perspective, I wanted to share, I'll take a few notes. So if you see me looking at my phone, it's because I don't want to miss anything. I don't know if all of you are aware, Vermont Asylum Assistance Project is an org that provides legal services to the immigrant community in Vermont. The majority of the work that we do is based on humanitarian pathways for to help the immigrant community to legally establish in Vermont and in the U.S. nationally. We work with minors as well. So we are a very small team of people, but we do also not only do asylums, which is the majority of the work that we do, but we also work with minors, which sometimes have a very distinct pathway to regulate their status in the territory. So one of the things that I wanted to share is that we have a very active website, and despite us being very tiny and wanting to help as many people as we can, sometimes we have to slow down because we have little manpower, but our website, it's very active. It's always including new resources, and if you ever are wondering where to go to find basic information about what's happening and about what's the immigration landscape looking like in Vermont, and what to do. There is a lot of information there. Our executive director is very active in the policy arena in Vermont, so that information is also included in the website. So just to give you a few points to check, I wanted to say that this website is not completely, but we do our best to keep it multilingual. So you will find information there in English, but also in Spanish and other languages, French, we have Portuguese, and others. But the majority of the languages that we have in Vermont, you will find the information there. So information on red cards, which personally, I being myself an immigrant, find it very useful. My brain also freezes sometimes when these things happen. It doesn't really matter if I have a legal formation back at home or if I work with legal issues here. Everybody freezes when they see eyes at some point, and those cards are probably, they can come handy. We also have some information about Know Your Rights, information about sanctuary schools as well. And lately, we added a video from Vermont Language Justice Project on guardianship, which is a video about making a family planning case. One of the parents or both parents have an encounter with us, or they are deported, what to do with the children, and how to designate someone who cares for the best interest of the child. So I don't want to make this like super long. That was Vermont Asylum Assistance Project SAD. Very quickly on my own. I am also a part of the immigrant community. I come from Cuba. English is not my first language. And sometimes we actually just underestimate the complete calmness of just walking through the street, speaking your own language, and nobody really cares. The fear is something real, and sometimes we are thinking, should I even be speaking right now? Like, are the people around me going to do something, going to have like certain actions towards me just because I look different? Should I keep my mouth shut and not speak at all? So that's also something that it's happening to us, and it's happening in a bank. It's happening in a store. So whatever you guys are working every day, like your daily activities, probably you are crossing pathways with someone that lives in fear, or at least at that time is in fear. I just wanted to put that out there because sometimes we don't know. But I guess now it's like probably a good time to, raise our awareness, because it's not a normal situation. So nobody will blame anybody if you wouldn't know, oh, this person seems like it's probably scared. But just lately going to Walmart is an issue. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Ashley. I'm part of the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation and Tempest. And when I was hearing you speak, Marnie, right? Yes. Marnie, it makes my blood boil that we live in a society where people are afraid to speak in their own language. What kind of world are we in when that's a reality? And I think it's a challenge. This whole panel is a challenge to everybody in the state. We have to stand up and stand shoulder to shoulder so everybody feels safe and confident to be themselves. Because that's what Trump is doing. He has got a divide and conquer strategy to try and pit us against one another so he and his rich buddies, like Christian talked about, can get away with murder and all our money. That's what and so what Stephen said is the most important thing. If we're united, we have tremendous power. The problem is we are not united to exercise our power in the face of this assault. And that's our challenge, because Trump is not going to listen to lobbying. Today he just made clear he will not listen to the courts. He just said he is going to ignore the court order. So now we are in the midst of a constitutional crisis where the president doesn't respect a legal ruling by a court, and a judge has held him in contempt of court. That's the standing president. So that puts us in a position where people power is our power. That's the only thing. And that's the significance of all the comrades on the panel today being in unions or in workers' organizations, because that's where the power really lies if we exercise it. Like, I forget who was talking about, Stephen mentioned the crops rotting in California. The United States cannot feed itself without migrant labor. There will be no roofing in the state of Vermont without without immigrant labor. That goes all across the board. The challenge for the U.S. labor movement is to overcome this divide and conquer strategy, because they are coming to split people on whether you're native or immigrant. And the union movement has to stand up for its creed, which is an injury to one is an injury to all. And if we can begin to do that, not just verbally, but concretely, like what Matt is doing in Winooski, we need to happen everywhere. Every school should be a sanctuary school, so that kids and parents can go to school with no fear to speak their language, to pick up their kids, for their kids to be proud of where they came from and who they are. But that means people have to get their nose to the grindstone. So if you are in a town, you should immediately contact your local union chapter. Find the best militants, put them in touch with Matt so they can organize through the union a sanctuary school. The parent-teachers groups, they should take a stand on this. So the schools is one thing. I think what Migrant Justice is doing, everybody should join the Rapid Response Network, so that when there's a call to defend people from ICE, we mobilize. And we mobilize all the people we know, so that nobody faces ICE alone. And we can do what Stephen did, and that is back ICE off, because people have power if we organize based on this kind of solidarity. And if we do this in the right kind of way, we can start to build the forces to make demands on our state government. No cooperation with ICE. No, maintain all trans services, all gender-affirming care. Maintain all the grants that are being cut off by the Trump administration by taxing the rich of this state. We have to make those demands of the Scott administration and the Democratic Party so that we force them to deliver what we need to defend ourselves. I think we have a power to set an example in the state, because this is tremendously significant. We need town meetings like this, where we can invite this panel to come on a tour and say, this is what's happening, this is what you can do to make a difference. So everybody should leave here tonight with something they're going to do against this anti-immigrant witch hunt, because if we don't defend immigrants, we're next in line. Everybody should really think about that, because not just verbiage. The Trump administration wants to fire 2 million federal workers, wants to suspend all sorts of essential services. So if anybody thinks it's just them, it's not us, they're fooling themselves. They first attack where they can get away with, and we don't defend them, we're next in line. So we're all at stake in this fight, and we have to unite and fight, and Stephen's absolutely right. People power, our power.
Hey everybody, my name's Emma. I work for AFT Vermont, which is a union here. But I guess I wanted to highlight, this is sort of a comment, sort of a question. For those of you who aren't aware of the labor law context on this, Migrant Justice is not a union, and they're not a union because agricultural workers aren't protected federally or at the state level to collectively bargain. So it's, Migrant Justice, but I think Migrant Justice is such a beautiful example of, despite not having those federal protections, they've created a democratic institution that is driven by workers and has that same democratic structure base that a union does. And they've been able to be incredibly nimble in different political climates because they're not tied or tethered to like what the National Labor Relations Board says you can or cannot do. And I think that should be inspiring for all of us in moments when we're going to see official privileges revoked or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like the laws don't matter. They did, it's a rich man's world, as Christian was saying. And so what matters is like what you can do with your friends, with your community, with your world here, which I think is what everyone's saying. But I did want to ask Christian to talk a little bit more about, you mentioned working in construction. I know that there's been an exciting development in the world of construction and migrant justice. I'm wondering if you could just let folks know about what that is and what that means for workers right now.
Sí, pues bueno, lo que acaba de pasar con Vermont Construction es que ha firmado un nuevo contrato que es casi parecido a Leche con Dignidad, que defiende los derechos de los trabajadores migrantes que van a trabajar para Vermont Construction.
Yes, what happened is that a company called Vermont Construction signed an agreement to set up a program that's really similar to the Milk with Dignity program in that it protects the right of workers within their building, their construction site.
Sí, entonces es algo que empodera a la comunidad, porque es un programa creado por trabajadores a beneficio de los trabajadores que trabajamos duro en la construcción, y creo que lo mínimo que merecemos después de trabajar duro es dignidad.
It's something that empowers the worker community. It's created by workers in the construction industry, and it protects our rights. And it is, even though we're working really hard and these are really challenging times, this program gives us dignity. I just wanted to add really quick that you mentioned rapid response, and I wanted to pass around a sign-up sheet in case anyone's interested in.
Everybody sign up.
And let's talk more about joining our networks too.
What is
Oh, actually, I was actually gonna make a plug for that. This is perfect timing. Why don't you go ahead if you want to?
Pregunta, ¿cuál es la respuesta rápida? Para cuando hay arrestos y eso.
Oh, pues lo que estamos haciendo ahorita es lo de conociendo tus derechos. Cuando hay un arresto es como no tienes que bajar la ventana para si un compa está dentro de un carro, o tienes que guardar la calma donde quiera que estés, y lo que Justicia Migrante está haciendo ahorita es marcar algún aliado que esté cerca en cualquier lugar para enfrentar la migra con el compa que esté. Sí. Pero quiero decir también que no depende de la persona que llegue ahí, sino también del compa que sepa qué hacer en ese momento. Y es ahí donde vuelve a entrar de conoce tus derechos.
We've been working really hard on knowing your rights and learning your rights and knowing how to defend your rights, and at the same time organizing a network of allies to who can come and support in cases of like arrest emergencies. But it's important that we not depend completely just on like people showing up as part of rapid response, but that also ourselves who are immigrants also know our rights, and so that we're prepared to defend them and then call on people to support us in solidarity.
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm touching on has been, echoed by many of people here already, but I'll go ahead and repeat some of it because I think we gotta get it over and over again because it's so important. But I think that it's really important for, I think, all of us to recognize that a lot of what the Trump administration is doing right now is counting on us being afraid, and that fear paralyzing us. and you know, we are living in frightening times. I think we need to be real about that it's a very scary situation that we're in right now, but that we cannot let that fear paralyze us, because again, that is what the Trump administration and this reactionary right-wing force is counting on. And so, you know, I think the reason that all of us are here is asking that question of like, what can we do to fight back? And, you know, and again, what so many people have touched on that I just want to repeat is, you know, that any of us as individuals can do very little. You know, me just as myself, like, what can I do to fight against the federal government? Not a lot, right? But you know, but me getting involved in collective organization with other people acting collectively, that is where our power comes from, as Stephen so beautifully articulated. And so, like, that's, you know, I just want to keep like encouraging these points that people have been talking about. It's like, get involved collectively. So if you're in a union, get plugged into that union. You know, I'm the vice president of the Howard Center Union, and we're working right now to figure out like what is our response as the Howard Center Union going to be, and how are we going to be able to collectively organize to fight against this. If you're not in a union, you know, get plugged into, you know, other political organizing groups, or go ahead and talk to your workers, because you don't need to be in a union to collectively organize in your workplace. Yeah, you know, please do join this rapid response network, because these are the types of collective actions that are going to be necessary. And I'll just end by saying, you know, that I think a lot of the reasons that the Trump administration is relying so much on this fear and paralysis is because they are not actually as strong as they want to make themselves out to be. I think they are banking on the paralysis of the population in order to get away with a lot of what they're going to be trying to do. But it is us collectively that is going to be able to determine, they're going to be able to find that pushback. And I think if we are able to do that, we are going to find that they are not nearly as strong as they have made themselves out to be. But we have to get started organizing together right away. And so, you know, I'm so thrilled to see this panel up here. I'm thrilled to start making connections with other unions and building those relationships and building out those networks. Yeah, exactly. We need to make Howard Center, you know, a sanctuary agency. You know, and I think that, you know, I'll just end by saying, you know, like a lot of what Matt was saying up here, that, you know, the school board is, you know, talking about their fears around, like, well, if they put themselves out there, you know, being targeted with like funding cuts or things like that, and those are real fears. But like, if we can. They're coming anyway, and also if we can get other schools to do it as well, all of a sudden the spotlight isn't on Winooski School District, right? It spreads and it grows, and it gets more difficult to single out these kind of rogue actors. And so that's why we need this to be spreading right now, because our way out of this mess is going to be together.
I also want to think that there is a lot of misinformation that is being spread about immigration. And so that is aimed at casting fear to the local community. If we could do something in our unions to let our folks know the truth about immigration, let us demand that immigration be part of our town hall meetings as an item to discuss and talk about, because it affects us. And then the truth sets us free. And so we have a saying where I come from that empty tins make a lot of noise because there is no substance in them. And so if you have substance, do not tell me, Yahoo, I'm going to beat you. Come and do it. You get what I mean? So there is a lot of fear that is aimed to chase you and run without anybody chasing you. So let us stand united and discuss and get to understand what immigration is all about and who is a real threat in all this.
Thank you for that comment. It made me think of something. If we think of different organized groups, labor organized groups, and maybe also strategically what the expertise is in the different organized groups. So I think Migrant Justice has such a great model for organizing completely from the bottom up. Yep. Well, I'm thinking about United Academics, for example. We have several specialists on migration and immigration in the faculty, and we could say, well, maybe a role of those specialists would be to gather expert studies, for example, that demonstrate that both documented and undocumented immigrants have lower crime rates, especially violent crime rates, than people born in the U.S., or studies that show that immigration at both the local and the state level creates kind of an economic dynamism in this country that leads to prosperity for the areas that have greater levels of immigration, and then on this sort of, in terms of the organized movements within the state of Vermont, we could disseminate those studies, right? So we say, these are the statistics, and you have like your tables. I kind of have a vision of this, and I feel like it's not happening. And so people can walk away with their stereotypes, right? But if we could spread that information in an organized way through organized labor organizations.
If there are any last comments or questions? We're almost at time, so if not, I think we'll just throw it back to...
Can I just say one thing?
We'll just throw it back to a person with the microphone, and then the panel.
The resistance has already begun. If people have watched in L.A., immigrants in L.A. took over the freeway in the thousands. In Chicago, they launched a day without an immigrant, and 50,000 teachers and students called in sick to the Chicago public school system. There is going to be an immigrant-led resistance, period, whether we organize it or not, because people are not going to be treated in this inhumane fashion, and they're going to fight. The question is, the rest of us, are we going to stand with them? That's the test that we're put to. Oh, you don't need that. You got it.
Sure, do you want to go ahead and make a brief comment before we throw it back to them?
I'm Jordan, a first-generation Bosnian diaspora, a member of the Vermont Coalition of Palestinian Liberation. I also pitch in with our partner organizations whenever they need a hand. Your experiences that you shared with the immigration system, Steve Tendo, is similar, however, not nearly as extreme as my mother's, who went through here when she came here as a refugee during the Yugoslav war. When she came here, the immigration authorities questioned her intensely, more along the lines of an interrogation. And this is what they do with all immigrants, especially they're coming from Africa, Asia, or any Spanish-speaking country, and even some former Soviet republics, including the former Yugoslavia, considering the history and legacy left there. And speaking of the immigrant solidarity piece, it's an imperative that we organize all immigrant communities. So we can get through this struggle together. I understand that my folks within the Bosnian diaspora are not organized on this. And it's going to take some time till we come together. However we do, we are a formidable force alone as a community. However, when we do join forces with the broader immigrant community, we can certainly do much more together.
So, last word for our panelists. Do you, go in the same order or reverse order?
Sure. So I'll just quickly say that, speaking to this idea of people power, that institutions tend to be very conservative in that they just don't want to be bothered. They want to keep things calm. But I think if we think along union lines, and along along the lines of mobilizing people, we can very much influence the institutions around us and pull them in our direction. So I don't think the battle is lost, but I do think it is on us to take action.
Yeah, I'm actually just thinking through the last comment about having all these statistics showing that immigrants aren't harmful, and I think that's really powerful. But we didn't need that in Winooski School District, right? We see those kids every day. These are like curious, beautiful little human beings that are exploring and learning, and like the idea that they're like some vicious criminal is just absolutely patently absurd, right? And you know, I don't know what you do with that, but you know, it is. It's just heartbreaking to see, like, you know, I don't know, following the national conversation. And I remember with the last Trump administration, the first thing with the Muslim ban, right? Like, we had these big conversations and the news, everything's abstract. But I had a student whose grandmother couldn't come and visit because of that. It was like a real thing that happened immediately, right? Like those big federal policies, right? For me as like a white man living in Vermont, like they don't always like hit me directly, but like these are like these big federal, you know, executive orders are directly impacting, you know, the people in our community every day in like a direct and immediate and horrifying way. You know, I think the only thing we can do is everything we can, right? And standing together, union to union, like, you know, I think that's the only way that we are going to be able to stand up and protect each other. So.
I'll continue to say that people power.
Our power.
There is a lot that you can do. Every time you sit back and fold your hands and start whining, you don't make a change. Every time you take action and say, what is my involvement into creating a better community for me and my neighbors? What can I do to create an impact? I work at the hospital, and every single night I take care of over 8 patients. General medicine has patients who are confused with maybe dementia or other things, not being specific. But every single day I go to the hospital, I go with a positive mind of creating a difference in my patients' lives. And I know that they are my family when I am there. And so if you determine to create a difference in the lives of the immigrants who are contributing a difference in your lives, we can stand together and fight the common enemy. That is what I would love to leave behind. That we can do a lot. We can send shocking waves not only to Vermont, but to the entire world, that no person is illegal.
Bueno, yo solo quiero decir una frase para terminar. Es que juntos venceremos.
Juntos venceremos.
Sí.
I just want to say one phrase to end us. Together we will win.
Big thank you again to all of our speakers, really generously giving your time and your energies and bringing this message to us all. One quick message about an action coming up.
Yeah, we all need to be better organizers, so I'm going to try to do that now, and that it's really important for us to figure out how everyone can take a next step to get more involved in the system. So there's lots of ideas that the panel people had here in the meeting. Another thing is joining up with the campaign for apartheid-free community in Winooski.
Yep.
It's against Israeli apartheid and against Israeli genocide and ethnic cleansing. And the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation understands this as a fight against the right because it's their model.
Yep.
It's their model. Ethno-nationalist state, racist, with no rights for anyone except a select few, right? So we're fighting that internationally. So If you want to join the committee, you don't have to be from Winooski. I'll be there on Saturday, but I'm not from Winooski. We're going to leaflet everyone in Winooski, like we're 1/3 of the way there, so we need people to help. We're meeting at 1:30 at Scout at the roundabout in Winooski. So if you want to come, you'll meet people from the committee. We'll have routes and maps, and we'll send people out, and I think it's an important step for Winooski. It'll be if Winooski supports this, it'll be the first time nationally that Israeli apartheid has gone to a vote. And I think we can win it in Winooski.
Yep.
What day is that, Paul? Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday at 1:30 at Scout.
Go ahead.
It's also important to remember that regarding most policies between the Democrat and the Republican Party, most policies are bipartisan, including immigration. They're not our allies, period.
Well, thank you all for being here. Get connected, take the next step. I think that we're all coming out of this meeting feeling a lot stronger. If no less afraid, we are feeling stronger. So thank you all for being here.